Hello, this is Akira. This is Megumi, and we're doing a special class live today from Kagawa HQ. And so we're talking about one of the most frequently asked questions, like that's how to cook noodles properly, right? And well, it's like one of the most a lot of people like make mistake like in how to cook noodles effectively. Even like a lot of like chefs like with experience like in the culinary experience of like 10 years or something, they do not actually know how to cook noodles properly. So, and then so we wanted to talk about how to cook noodle properly, and then well the whether or not like how to cook noodles effectively properly, well with like either kills your noodle or like they make them really delicious and then turn your customers into like raving fans. So and then at the same time you can reduce the cost of cooking by applying what you learn in today's class into your business, right? So you these are something that you can do, start doing today for your business to drastically improve your business like operation and the quality of what you're serving, right? So what we're gonna do today is that like we're gonna go through the lecture that I'm written like the whiteboard behind me, and then Megumi is gonna make the noodles, right? Using the variables like you have a control, right? Then for the noodles that you can cook effectively, right? So and then on the most advanced noodle machine that we have, like that's Richmond Gold 2. And then lastly, like we are going to go to our kitchen and then show you guys, actually how you can make noodles effectively, right? So let's get started on the lecture first, right? And so, this is the ultimate guide to effective noodle cooking, and you can serve better noodles at the same time reduce the cost of cooking, right? And so these are 10 things that I want to talk about, like, but I'm going to go through like really quickly each of them, right? So that, I won't, make you fall asleep. So first of all, like number one is the noodle texture, right? So you want to know what the final products, we are making, right? So what kind of noodle texture you want your customers to experience, right? So do you want to, experience like your customers to experience like, okay, like chewy or soft texture, like a hard and crunchy texture. You have to have like, well, what kind of noodle texture we want the customers to experience. Then we know, okay, well, how gonna cook our noodles, right? So that's number one. And then number two is, okay, so how do we know like if the noodles are cooked or not, right? That which means that they are ready to eat, right? So that's gelatinization, right? Our noodles have to be gelatinized, to be able, like, for us to be able, like, say that they're cooked noodles. Otherwise, they are still raw, right? So what's a gelatinization, right? Gelatinization is that starch of the wheat flour, right? It's getting swelled and burst, like when, heated in a liquid or water. And then, the starch, like, kind of thickens the liquid, the water, and then kind of forms kind of gel-like structures. So that's a gelatinization. And then for that to happen, right, we need to have water to be boiled, right, over like 96 degrees Celsius, right. So that's why we need to have like boiling water, boiling water to be able to like cook noodles properly, right. So number three is that like, so okay, what kind of noodles um, yeah, so, but like, okay, so like after we cook noodles, right, there's another trouble that we have to be concerned about, right? Because when the noodles are cooked, right, the water, cooking water, like still like seeping through into the noodles, right? And then when the noodles are kind of, cooked fully, and then the water is like seeped through like an entire area of the noodle strands, then, we call them soggy noodles, right? That like a lot of people don't like, right? So we want to hit the spot, right, where the noodles between like gelatinized and soggy, right? So that's a window, maybe very slim, like depending on the noodle size and the noodle shape, right? So we want to be able to like insert noodles, that in the at the timing that like customers like slop them, but like we have to like hit the window of like between like noodles being gelatinized and noodles being soggy, right? Okay, so what type of noodle dish we are serving, right? That also affects the cooking time and so on and so forth. Like so, for example, like hot soup noodles, right? If you're serving hot soup noodles, because the noodles going to be still be cooking in the hot soup, right? So we wanna well cooked noodles like in a way that like they're still kind of hard, right? They still have like some texture, but after like getting gelatinized, right? And if you have something like cold noodle, cold dish, then we know that like okay, we're gonna be chilling the noodles, right? Tighten the noodles texture. So we want to be overcooking them, right? We want to overcook them a little bit and then chill them and tighten the noodle structure, so a noodle texture. So that's what you want to have like in mind to when you're cooking noodles. And the fourth thing is the size and shape, right? So we have this chart, right? We have a chart. So horizontal lines like hydration higher than lower, right? And then vertical line is noodle size, right? Thinner, thicker, right? And so basically thinner the noodle, like shorter the cooking time, a thicker noodle, so bigger the size, like I don't know, cooking up, that's no brainer. But like when the noodle is cooking, the noodle, the cooking water, right? um, penetrates the noodle through cut surface, right? Cut surface, like so you are cooking, cutting the noodles, dough sheet into noodles, and then there's a cut surface. So that's where the cooking water is going, right? So to cook noodles, so you have to, it goes into the from cut surface. So the thicker the noodle, the longer the cooking time, right? But then if you have like in terms of shape, right? If you have a flat noodle, so even though like it's thin, right? Then because it's wide, for the water to like get to the core, right? It takes time, right? So even though it's thin, small size, but like it's because it's wide, it takes longer time. So another thing is like hydration, right? Hydration is like so how much water is contained in noodles, right? And then so basically higher the hydration, because noodles like absorb cooking water, right, to be cooked. But like if it's like 50% hydration ratio, like it only has a lot of water in there, right? So it takes less time to be cooked, right? So but it doesn't well, like, and then, but like high hydration noodle, like, tends to be like thicker, right? So, the cooking time like tends to be longer, even though like it's the high hydration, and then low hydration ratio noodles like that tends to be like thinner, which like cooking time is like short, right? So, well, the hydration matters like when it comes to like cooking time, but like it's not as much, it doesn't matter as much as like well the noodle size, right? So hydration is like kind of also concerned, but like you should concern like more about the size and shape of noodles, right? And so the following points are like something you want to know, you want to apply, right? To save some time, save some labor cost, right? Um, Number six, like water hardness. Water hardness is like very important when cooking noodles. So hard water means that like there are a lot of minerals in water, it's like calcium, magnesium, right? And then when cooking noodles in hard water, right? So cooking noodle means that like it's exchanging, cooking water, like absorbing cooking water instead, right? It's releasing the ingredients like kansi, salt, and vinegar in case like udon, right? So, but like if there's a lot of minerals already in the water, there's less room for these guys to be out to the water, right? So it takes longer time. So, if, for in case like you guys have to use hard water to cook noodles, right? You want to be able to use soft water, right? Soft water, I mean, water softener to well get rid of like remove all these like minerals from your water to be able to cook, the noodles like in short period of time. And then because if you cook the noodles like for a long time, then that damages the noodle surface, which results in a poor noodle texture, and you are also like losing your noodles because noodles melt, right? Some of the noodles melt into the cooking water if you cook them for a long time, right? So you're not only losing your noodles, noodle yield, and the good noodle texture, but also you're losing money, which is the use, in terms of like, well, cooking time, gas, like, electricity, labor, right? So there's nothing good about like using hard water, cooking noodles in hard water. Okay, pH level. pH level is another thing that you wanna be concerned about when cooking noodles, right? So we did this test, a lot of tests, and then so this is the graph that like it shows like, so this is the quantity of like noodles that lost in cooking, like 10%, 20, but 30% up to like 60%, right? So this is the horizontal line is the pH level of the cooking water. So 7 being neutral, right? And then, being alkaline, acid, right? And then, so when we cook the noodles like in the neutral water, then, we lost about like 30% of noodles. But like if when we cook the ramen noodles, for example, then, constantly, right? Constantly gets resolved into cooking water, making the cooking water like a light alkaline here and then, like, so was like reduced to like maybe 18, like 15%. And then we're cooking udon noodles, which contains vinegar, right? Vinegar dissolved in the cooking water, making the acid, light acid. So like it was reduced like 10%, right? So, we thought like, okay, so like pH level matters like when it comes to like noodle yield of noodle, cooked noodles, right? So, but like look at like check like if the alkaline level like goes up, and then we lose a lot of noodles, right, in cooking, and then when the acid level goes up, then we lose a lot of noodles. So you want to be able to control the pH level to light alkaline or like light acid, right? So how do you do that, right? How do you do it? By adding water, right? By adding neutral water, then we can keep kind of like maintain the pH level of the cooking water. And so amount of cooking water matters, right? Amount of cooking, like we want to be able to like cook noodles in a well, a lot of water. So how much, right? 10 times, 10 times the amount of water, like, we want to have like for the amount of like weight of the noodles we are cooking. So for example, like, we're cooking like 1 kilogram fresh noodles, right? Then we want to have 10 kilograms of water. Ideally soft water, right? And the cooking temperature also matters, right? So like we already talked about like gelatinization, for that to happen, like that temperature needs to be like over 96 degrees Celsius, right? So this is a cooking temperature of the water, and then so like it's going up, and then like it's going to boiling point, and then when we start cooking noodles, right? So noodles like throw into the cooking water cooker, right? And then the cooking water like drops because of the temperature of the noodles, like definitely lower than the cooking water, right? Drops, but like gets back up faster. So we want to have noodle cooker that can get that drop temperature back up like really quickly, right? As quickly as possible, so that we want to have like cooking temperature like sort of like maintained throughout the cooking process, right? So so then that leads to like next topic, that's like effective noodle cooker. So we want to have like noodle cooker like this. So because of the tap, like soft water, like pH level, controlling pH level, right, maintaining it. So we want to have a tap that runs soft water, right, and then high powered heater, right, and then at the same time, like to well compensate, well kind of retain the soft water, and then like clean water, and then overflow the dirty water. We want to have like the overflow drainage, right? Drainage, so it drains out like dirty water little by little, and then have the clean water little by little to sort of like kind of keep that cycle of clean water that's like light acid or light alkaline throughout the cooking. So for us to be like cook noodles, better noodles, and serve better noodles, and then reduce costs, right? So noodle texture, what kind of noodle texture we want, right? Is it chewy or crispy? And then gelatinization. So that's the sort of like the point where like we okay, these our noodles are cooked, and then we have to go beyond the gelatinization, but like not to soggy point, right? What type of noodle dish that we want to make, right? And then so that determines the cooking time. And size and shape noodles, like we talked about them, right? The square shape, like flat, hydration. So hydration is also important, but like not as much as like noodle size or noodle shape, right? The water hardness, right? That's very, very important if you're using hard water to cook your noodles, right? So pH level, we talked about it like this graph, like remember, and then we want to be able to control it and maintain the pH level. Amount of cooking water, right? 10 times the amount, like at least 10 times the amount, like weight of the noodles we're cooking. So cooking temperature, 96 degrees Celsius, and then effective noodle cooker, right? So noodle cooker, like we're going to show you guys like in the kitchen later, but like, and then explain it, okay, how it works, right? And then, so we're going to make some noodles of our Richmond Gold 2 machine, but like, when we are making noodles, right, like, there are certain variables that we can control, right? So hydration definitely we can control. Okay, so then what kind of noodle size we're making, right? If the, like, certain noodle size, like, kind of corresponds to like a certain hydration level, like range, right? And then, if it's thinner, thicker, right? So like that determines the cooking temperature, I mean cooking time, and then the new shape, right? And then like of course like ingredients, right? So what kind of protein content like flour that we are using to make these noodles? So that determines the hardness, right? Hardness of noodles, and then so that sort of like affects the cooking time as well. So yeah, so these are variables that you should like control like when cooking. We're having noodles, like making noodles, and then how you are going to do that sort of like cooking operation setup, right? Okay, so let's start making some noodles, and we're just gonna make some noodles, and then on our Richmond Gold 2 machine. So you're seeing a Richmond Gold 2 machine, and then so this is the most advanced, newest drill machine that we have, and then because Richmond Gold 2 machine doesn't have a mixer, right? So we already made the dough in advance. And speaking of hydration, that this is like kind of low in hydration, so like 30%, like early, like 30%, 32% or so. And then you see that like the color, right? Color, the dough is like kind of a pale yellow. That yellowness comes from yellow color comes from like the concentrate that we add to the flour. So what this machine does is that like we're going to make sheet of dough first, right? We're going to make a sheet of dough, and then yeah. So what's great about this machine is that like you have a touch panel that can control like every aspect of this machine, right? So it started like feeding the dough into the roller unit, right, to make sheet of dough, and then so first process like we call it is rough forming. So like we are forming like rough sheet of dough, right? That's still fragile. So we later like we want to walk it to like make it stronger. Okay. And then so the machine is kind of measuring, right, how much dough is going to the roller, right? And so that so like regulates the like speed of conveyor, right, to like kind of speed of feeding. And there's a certain amount of like dough that correct amount of dough like that should be like fed into the roller at the time. So it's important to do that. And then like manually operated machine, you would have to be like feeding it by hand, right? And then like kind of need to be able to like know that okay, how much is appropriate, right? to feed at the time. Right? So need some experience and yeah, and practice. And so the next process that we are doing that is that like we are combining so like combining process like it's called like combining and then so what we're doing is essentially like kind of separating it into two sheets, right? Two sheets of dough and then putting them together through a roller. So just basically combining them. So it's like she pushed the one button that adjusted the roller gap, right, to appropriate roller gap. And then in manual operated machine, like you'd have to like, well, manually, adjust roller, and then like you have to know, okay, what the, appropriate roller gap would be, and then you have to do like calculation in your head or, in the calculator or something. And again, like she just like wind it onto the rolling pin, and then like it's just automatic, right? The rest of it is automatic, right? So by doing the combining process, right, like we're walking the dough, basically making them stronger, and it's kind of like developing like muscles in body, and then kind of by doing a workout. So you're just making it stronger, firm, then developing gluten, right? Okay, so what we're doing next is like another round of combining, and so depending on the kind of noodle, like the kind of texture like you're making, we do combining process like once, twice, right? Up to twice, like twice maximum, and then at the same time, we are going to start dusting the dough to of course, like prevent them from sticking. And this dusting process, like there's like automatic duster, like that's set in the rear of this machine. And so depending on the hydration, like if it's high hydration, like you wanna be able to like dust a lot, right? But like for this one, like it's not that high in hydration, like so. But we are still dusting a little bit. And yeah, and in this process, right, like combining, like wrap forming and combining process, like we are going like slow intentionally to well just to apply like really good pressure in the dough, right, to so like develop the gluten well. It's definitely for like all for better noodle texture. That's yeah. So after combining, right, like all we have to do is just thin it, right, thin the dough to the final thickness, and well and then just push one button to adjust the roll gap to appropriate roll gap. And then we are using this rule of method like, well, we call like 30% reduction. roll. So like every round of rolling, right, thinning, we are reducing the roll gap by 30%. Not drastically, because like if you thin it, all at once, right, then like that damages the gluten inside dough. So that we work so hard to develop so far, right? So like we don't want to do that, right? So we want to be able to yeah, just thin gradually at 30% reduction rate. And now like we are going fast, right? Going fast, just thinning, so just going fast. Okay, so it's measuring the actual thickness dough, right, in 2.5, 2.5, yeah. After it's going to like 1.9 millimeter roll gap. So like there's always difference between roll gap and then actual thickness. So because the dough just you know bounces back, right? So like we know that okay, yeah, this dough bounces back by zero point 0.6. So that tells us okay, like what roll gap like we need set to get to the final thickness. So now we are cutting, right? Now we're cutting this dough sheet into noodle strands, right? And then so we're using this kind of cutter, kind of like paper shredder, kind of. Then this is number 20, so like width is 1.5 millimeter, right? So the thickness is controlled by the roller, right? Roller gap. Width is 1.5. So we are cutting it, right? And then yeah, so it's like it's getting thin, right? Thinned, and then going to the cutter now, right? It's like getting thin, and like probably the thickness should be 1.4, 1.5 or something, right? And then going to the cutter. So the noodles are coming out, and then so what's great about this machine, right, is that like the height, right, of where the image catching noodles like kind of set, really really high from the ground, right? So if you can imagine like this piece of equipment like is set in front of the your store, right, kind of facing like the glass showcase, like facing the streets, like people walking, and then that kind of like stops people in the trunk, right? And then like they probably go like, oh, okay, wow, like well, these guys are making noodles from scratch, like here, right? Um, Speaking so like not only like this machine is not easy to use, like then be able to like churn out like a lot like spurred noodles, but also like it works as sort of like piece of machine that as a traction or like and then um, yeah, and then kind of like entertain people, like so. Yeah, it's a good like equipment. Like not only works as like food preparation equipment, but also works as works as like an attraction, right? You know, probably because of this equipment, right? Showing how you make noodles, you may be able to turn some of the people that are watching into like customers, right? And then it's easy to portion like change the portion size. Like basically the length is the portion size, so it's easy to like adjust the length of noodles, right? The touch a knob, so it's very easy to use and make noodles on it. Right, so that's how we make noodles on the Richmond Gold 2 machine. And now it's time for us to yeah go to our kitchen and show you guys how you can cook your noodles. So this is a kitchen, right? This is where we teach our real udon course, like ramen course, and we have a lot of equipment here, like that you can use to make a variety of ramen dishes like from scratch, right? So actually next week, like we are having real ramen course here, and it's fully booked, right? So but yeah, so this is where like we do the like all the real courses, right? And then so like maybe we made like bunch of different types of noodles like in advance, right? And then so yeah, so we have like the noodles we just made, right? And then like this is a this is a tsukemen. This is tsukemen noodles with that like some whole grain flour like kneaded in them, right? And this is like low hydration noodles, like which are typically like thin noodles. And then so this is yeah, this is a flat noodles. It's flat noodles like it's kind of thin, but like at the same time like they're flat. And then this is also like flat noodles as well. So different cooking time, and then at the same time like so we talked about like hot soup noodle, like what kind of noodle dish is it for, right? So like hot noodle soup, or like if it's cold one, then the cooking time will be different, and how you treat the noodles will be different. So right, and yeah, so yeah, we can start cooking noodles, and then we're going to do the like two versions of the same noodles, and cold and hot soup noodle, so that you guys can see the difference right between these two types of dishes. That and then um, yeah, and then like you can show like you can understand like okay how we treat them differently, how we serve them differently, right? So right, so like these are two like same noodles, right? But like one for hot soup dish, and then another for kind of cold for dipping noodle like tsukemen type dish. So for tsukemen type noodle dish, right? Like we are using like actually two portions because usually like dipping noodle and tsukemen, right? Like very big noodle portion, right? To kind of compensate for a small amount of soup that's served, with the noodles. And so we have like different cooking time, right? For hot soup noodle, that's just like 1 minute and 30 seconds, right? And then for cold noodle, that's 3 minutes, 3 minutes. And notice that like, see, like he added the like hot water in the bowl, right? First, like to warm it. If you have like cold bowl, right, and then if you put the hot soup in it, then it gets colder, right? So we wanna have like really hot, hot soup, right? Then, so he's adding the oil and tare, right? That's pre-made, right? And then, so he warmed the stock, right? Base stock, and then adding it to the bowl to be mixed with tare and oil, right? Okay, so the noodles for the hot soup noodle dish like is done, right? And then so notice like how he's doing it, like shaking it off, shaking all the water off, right? So you wanna be able to shake as much water as possible to not to dilute the soup, right? And then yeah, check out like how he yeah like lifting the noodles to the kind of like getting them coated with oil, right? The soup, everything. So when customers eat, right, bite into them, like it has this all these like soups and oils like coated, and then coating noodles with oil and everything, right, kind of help retain the noodle texture because ambient temperature like maybe cold, right, then that kind of well make the noodles cold as well. So and then notice like how much the tare and oil like he added to the dipping sauce, right? It's like twice as much, right? Even though the stock itself like is not much, but like you know the dipping noodle sauce, um, adds a lot of oil and tare because it has like really intense flavor and taste to so like um, go with the like noodles, right? Chicken dipping noodles, and then so he adding the stock, right? That's tonkotsu stock, like really thick one, right? And then so the noodles are ready, so ready to go, right? This is a cold dish, so like cooking time was 3 minutes, and then so what she's doing now is like, well, he's gonna wash them, right? Wash noodles, because noodles have like some like starch, on surface noodle surface, right? So like kind of slimy texture, and some people don't like them. So wanna wash them off first, the running water, right? As much as possible, and then we're going to dump them into the iced water, like cold water, to so these noodles like kind of overcooked, right, compared to like hot soup noodles. But they're getting tightened like with the cold water. So the outside is like very tightly, well, like hard, right? But like inside, soft. So that's the kind of texture we are looking for in cold noodle. And then yeah, so he strained the water like as much as possible, and then like plating it. So notice that like noodles like really translucent and like like look really delicious. Okay, so this is this is how you do the hot soup noodle and cold noodle dish. So for hot soup noodle, like kind of undercook the noodle, right? And then for cold noodle dish, like we want to kind of overcook them and like chill them, right? So we talked about that in this in lecture, but like you notice this noodle cooker, right? Like this noodle cooker is for ramen, right? Ramen noodles, like we cook them like individual portions, right? Individually, like so you have basket. This particular one has like hold like 4 basket, right? And then notice that like we have a tap that runs the soft water. right? So we have a softener actually installed in this room, right? Then it converts the hard water into salt water, and then we have faucets, like bunch of faucets actually around salt water. And then notice like we have like over there like we have like different faucets like for each stock pot that we cook the ramen stocks, right? Um, then because throughout cooking of the ramen stocks, right, we are adding salt water to maintain the like amount of water we are cooking the ingredients with, in right. So that's why we have like all these like faucets that run salt water, right? And yeah, and then coming back to the noodle cooker, right? Make sure that you have the top and then high powered like heating system, right? So that like when you're cooking like multiple servings of noodles, like that you can back up the heat like cooking temperature like as fast as you can. And then you have this drainage hole, right? Drainage, overflow drainage, so that like when you're adding the salt water, right, and then it doesn't overflow, right? So these are the 3 points, 3 things that you want to have in a noodle cooker to be able to like effectively cook your noodles. Yeah, so these are things that you can start applying in your business right today to dramatically improve your business operation and then like probably profit margin as well.